The mesh menu item, 4 edges, is to generate a two-dimensional mesh, on the basis of 4 boundary lines, forming a closed region. Let's make a simple example. First, create 4 boundary lines, which are linked serially. A straight line, a curved line, and 2 other straight lines. For 4-edge mesh generation, 2 facing boundary lines are paired, and each of paired boundary lines should have equal number of segments. Let's divide the first pair of boundary lines into 20 segments. And divide the other pair into 8 segments. Choose 4 edges item from Mesh menu. 4-edge mesh dialog pops up. The default element type is set to TRIA3, that is, 3-noded triangular element. Move the cursor over the mesh region, surrounded by 4 boundary lines. The region is highlighted in green color. Double-click the region. Mesh is generated over the region. Using the same boundary lines, we may generate mesh with different element configuration. The next example shows an alternative mesh of triangular elements with Union Jack arrangement. In the next example, the mesh is replaced with 4-node quadrilateral elements. Lastly, instead of clicking the mesh region, select the 4 boundary lines to designate the mesh region. Click Quad 8 radio button for 8-node quadrilateral element. Press Generate button. The region is filled with a mesh of 8-node quadrilateral elements. Next example is to show how to control the mesh density, using weighted division of boundary lines, for 4-edge mesh generation. The boundary lines consist of a circular arc and 4 straight lines. The circular arc is paired with 2 straight lines in the opposite side. The circular arc is divided into 20 segments, and each of the 2 straight lines is divided into 10 respectively. The other 2 straight lines are to be non-uniformly divided with a specified weight. Thus, select Divide item from Divide menu. Curve Division panel pops up. Set the number of divisions to 16. Select the other pair of boundary lines. Press Divide button. Then, this pair of curves are uniformly divided into 16 segments. Such uniform division seems not appropriate for mesh generation with controlled density. So, set the division weight to 1 versus 5. Press Divide button. The 2 straight lines are divided into 16 with the specified weight. However, the weight of division seems reversed for the bottom straight line. So, click the line, and press Reverse button on the panel. Then, the straight line is divided into 16 with the reversed weight. Close the panel. Choose 4 edges item. Click Quad 4 radio button for 4-node quadrilateral element. Move the cursor over the mesh region and double-click. Then, new mesh is generated. The mesh is filled with 4-node quadrilateral elements with controlled density. Next example is a case of 4-edge mesh generation, for a region defined by a number of serially linked curves. For this demo, the curves were created and divided in advance. We may get information about the curves from Curve Info dialog. Double-click a curve. Then, the Curve Info dialog pops up. Whenever another curve is selected by clicking, the dialog is updated with the information about the newly selected curve. In this way, we may identify the number of divisions for each of the curves. Thus, we can check whether the region is compatible for 4-edge mesh generation. Choose 4 edges item again from Mesh menu. Set the element type and other options in the dialog. Move the cursor over the mesh region, and double-click the region. Then, the region is filled with newly generated mesh. This is the end of the tutorial for 4-edge mesh generation.